Welcome back. All right, so there's a debate that I saw online that I was like, all right, we've had this before. I can make up a board. We can talk about this again on Leon Draisaitl. Leon Draisaitl is a center, and that's a big part of the debate right there. Is he a center? Is he not? And then you get into the power play side of things, and I mean, I can understand where people are coming from, but we are now into a league where defensemen really don't play on the power play anymore. I think it's gone too far that way. I think the five forwards means you're going to get more shorthanded goals against. I think it's important to at least have a defenseman on the ice, but that's just me. Because on some level, I think, well, why do we have defensemen 5-on-5 then? If it generates so much more offense and it's so much better, why do we have defensemen at all? And then, of course, there's going to be those who say, right, yeah, you're right. Well, you're catching on, but I don't. I'm a believer in three forwards, two defensemen. It's now considered revolutionary when a power play does that. In fact, that'll often be when they say, well, they're getting ready for 5-on-5. There's two defensemen on the ice. Okie dokie. So Draisaitl, one of the forwards who plays on that lethal power play for the Edmonton Oilers, 80 games this past season, 52 goals, 76 assists, 128 points. He's a fantastic player. He is absolutely one of the best players in the National Hockey League. And initially, when I made this video, this is my second attempt, I was comparing him to another player. And at the end of that video, I decided, you know what? Let's just talk about Leon. Let's not compare him to anybody else right now. And I'll get into some numbers with this. So his points per game played this year, 1.6. I checked. That's pretty good. Power play goals, 32. Power play points, 62. And this is where the debate comes in, right? The debate of, well, he's good on the power play. Okay, but he was number 2 in points per game in the National Hockey League this year. So he was number 2 in that category, narrowly beating out Nathan MacKinnon. His 32 power play goals in the NHL is easily first. McDavid was second with 21. So we can talk about the 32 power play goals and say, see, that shows he's terrible 5-on-5. He's elite on the power play. Those goals count. Those goals still matter at the end of the game. It's not like the referee goes, well, the score was 3-2, but since the Oilers scored twice on the power play, the other team was better 5-on-5. We are awarding the decision to the team they played against. That wouldn't go well, would it? Power play goals are part of the game. And if you have somebody that's absolutely elite on the power play, and for the Oilers, they're lucky. They've got two of them. And yes, they have great chemistry together in McDavid and Draisaitl. It does not diminish, for me anyways, Draisaitl standing amongst the best players in the game. His 62 power play points is second to McDavid's ridiculous 71. But since McDavid scored, 500 points last year, that's 71. You don't hear anybody saying too much about that, although I've seen McPower play. I've seen that comment, and I just go, fine. He's pretty good 5-on-5 too, but fine. The 64 even strength points that Draisaitl had is 13th in the NHL. So it's not that he doesn't generate offense 5-on-5. It's not at the same rate. It's not at the same rate as other players, and I understand that for some that would drop his standing. For me, that power play is so elite, and we'll go through this. So his time on ice per games played, 21 minutes, 44 seconds. That is fourth among forwards in the National Hockey League because of all the power play time. He does play shorthanded as well, not a ton, but he does. So shorthanded, he played 52 minutes and 38 seconds, so it's about 39 seconds a game that he played for the Edmonton Oilers. Seventh on the Oilers, so he's on that second unit. One thing Jay Woodcroft has tried to do is to improve the defensive game for Draisaitl, and at points you can see he's coming back, he's back checking, and I've seen that with McDavid as well. McDavid's defensive game getting better. And while people can chuckle at this, the reality is that if a player is awful defensively and then they're not as awful later, it's an improvement. And I understand that for some, they're still going to say, well, Draisaitl's defense means I wouldn't want him as my first line center. I don't think he's elite. That's fine. If you feel that way, that is fine. But for me personally, I look and I say he had 1,470 faceoffs. That's ninth most in the NHL. That erodes the argument that he's not a center. To me, if somebody takes 1,470 faceoffs, they are a center in the National Hockey League because they're taking the faceoffs. They're driving that play. And his faceoffs, impressive. 52.8% win rate, even strength. 59.2% on the power play. And 62% on the penalty kill. So in important situations like the penalty kill and the power play, he actually has a better face-off rate. I did see the argument that, well, yeah, they win the face-offs, but after the face-off, he's terrible defensively. Okay, but I win the face-off. The puck goes to my teammate, whether it's Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, whether it's Zach Hyman, whoever it is, And if we lose the puck after that, it doesn't diminish my face-off ability. Like that argument to me I found kind of odd. Also, he does play physical hockey, and I'm not saying he's going to make you forget about guys like the Kachucks, but 66 hits, 40 block shots. He's not shy out there. He is willing to do the work. He has shown he's willing to do the work, and I think he gets better every year. And I think he deserves some credit for that. His overall face-off winning percentage is 54.9. He takes 18.375 face-offs per game. And if you look that up, you'll see that's pretty high. That's top 10 in the National Hockey League. So, with McDavid and Draisaitl, there's going to be some overshadowing of Leon's ability, but I don't think it diminishes him as a center. And somebody playing the wing on the power play, again, there's lots of players who play wing on the power play. When you have 5 forwards on your power play, Mitch Marner, the Toronto Maple Leafs are trying to convert to play defense on the blue line during the power play, and if that works, he may do it some 5-on-5 work as well. Now, during the 2023 playoffs, Leon Draisaitl had 218 faceoffs out of the 12 games he played. So that's still a lot of faceoffs, right? And his winning percentage went up slightly, 55.1%. So what you're asking from Leon Draisaitl is when he has that faceoff that he gets the puck. And he does. He has a very high winning percentage. He played 12 games in these playoffs, 13 goals, 5 assists, 18 points. He has shown he is a playoff performer. When the Oilers get shut down, it's generally not Draisaitl, it's generally not McDavid that's the problem. It's the supporting cast that's been the problem for the Edmonton Oilers. Now, playing with McDavid was an argument I used, I want to say 3 or 4 years ago, in order to say, well, Draisaitl's more of a winger. And the more you watch of Oiler games, the more you realize that Draisaitl plays that second spot. Ideally, again, in a perfect world, you have 6 scoring wingers of varying levels of talent who can play where you have McDavid, then you have Draisaitl, and then you have Nugent Hopkins as your third line center. That would be absolutely perfect. And then during the power play, you could have McDavid running the first unit, Draisaitl running the second unit, and you might see an improvement in a power play that this past season was at 32.4%. So again, the idea that, well, he's not as good 5-on-5, okay, and I'll grant you that. I will grant you that Draisaitl's not as good 5-on-5, but he's still elite on the power play. Those goals, those points still count. If you lose the game and say, well, yeah, but he might have got 3 power play goals on us, but he got nothing 5-on-5, right, guys? You might not get a response from your teammates. They might throw a stinky glove at you. So, honestly, this power play being ridiculous, Draisaitl deserves some credit for that, as does McDavid, and as does the team and special teams coach. But when you look at playoffs all time, Draisaitl's point totals are pretty elite too. 49 games, 31 goals, 46 assists, 77 points. 1.57 points per game in his career in the playoffs. I think we're in an era now where there's more criticism to star players who don't play that defensive game. I think back to guys like Pavel Bure really stands out to me as a player that in this era, people would look at his 60-goal season and go, well, yeah, he had 60 goals. However, how many of those are on the power play? And look at him defensively. Yeah, defensively, his numbers would have probably been pretty scary. But that wasn't Bure's game, and nobody was paying Bure big money to go out there and block shots and to play defense. Back in his day, in fact, coming back to block shots, nobody would have expected. It would have been like, why is Bure dropping to block a shot? So the game has changed a lot. The fact that Draisaitl blocked 40 last year, I think, is great. And I think Jay Woodcroft has done his best to build this team out and to make it so that they're better all-around players. But when you're a star player like Draisaitl, and you know how good you are on the power play, you know how good you are offensively, it might be more difficult then for the coach to go up to the player and say, hey, we were thinking maybe if you could work on your defensive game. And maybe in Draisaitl's mind, that's not really what they're paying him for, right? So this is why as players get older, you will see their points totals maybe drop off a bit. Maybe they're a little less puck hungry and they're a little more of a well-rounded team player once they want that success in the playoffs. And I'm not saying that that's been a problem with Draisaitl, but it is something we do commonly see with players that when they do have the better all-around game, you get that play in the playoffs that you're looking for and maybe get yourself a Stanley Cup ring, which can be thrown at members of the Oilers right now as well. That's a sign they're not elite, but I don't see it that way. One interesting thing is that if a player wins a Stanley Cup ring and you think he's elite, you point and go, see, he's elite, Stanley Cup ring. But if you don't think he's an elite player and somebody goes, well, see, he's got a cup ring too, you can shrug and say, well, yeah, but look at his line mates, look at his teammates. That team, they were destined. It wasn't really him that got them that Stanley Cup. It was that other player. It's the system they play. So, again, it all gets subjective. The off season is a time where we see lists from everybody, myself included. And there's always going to be a subjectivity to it. And there's always going to be that opinion gets in there. Because you can have all of the advanced stats and everything, and then when you see what those stats tell you, still say, well, this guy's ranked 10th in that category, but I wouldn't say he's the 10th best forward in that category. And I would say that maybe his stats there are helped by, and so there's still that subjectivity that comes in there. Draisaitl's one of the best forwards in the game. He's absolutely one of the best centers in the game. And for anybody ranking him amongst the best centers, I think they're absolutely right. Years back, if you wanted to say he's not really a center, he's more of a winger, I would have agreed with you. Right now, I can't. I can't because Draisaitl does play 5-on-5 minutes down the middle. And really, when you see him playing on the same line as McDavid, if it's 5-on-5, it's because the Oilers are losing. It's because they need a spark. It's the only time you really see it now, 5-on-5. And they do deploy their lineups differently on the road than they do at home. And it's worked. For the Oilers during the regular season, it's absolutely worked. I think it'll work again. And the one question I have is, he got 62 points. McDavid got 71 points. On the power play, they combined for 133 points. How much better could it get? Does it get better? Let me know your thoughts in the comments section below as always. Do you feel like Leon Draisaitl's a bona fide center, or do you subscribe to this idea that he doesn't play as well 5-on-5, so not really elite, he's more of a winger? And again, I can't make that argument. The face-offs, the ice time, and just the overall numbers to me say, yeah, he's an elite center. But let me know your thoughts. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe. And yes, this is part of the reason why when I was ranking forwards, I just ranked forwards. I left it. I used to do centers and wingers, and this year I thought, no, because there's going to be guys I rate as centers or rate as wingers. People are going to argue with me, don't belong in that category. Better off just to say forwards. But hey, others are braver than me. Let me know your thoughts. Hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.